You're listening to Three's a Crowd, the North East Footy Podcast, with Rye for Borough, Steve for Newcastle United, and Ted for Sunderland.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, you beautiful people across the land. It is the North East Footy Show podcast. I am joined by my two legends on my left and right. I do apologise. I've had some camera issues where you're going to have to put up with the best badge in the world. I'm sorry. And not let these two scare you away.
Oh, that came out really horrible. I'm sorry.
Better than last week, as you said pre-meeting. It's good to see everyone. I hope you're all very fantastic, safe and well. It's good to see you, Mr. Steve Wraith, for Newcastle United, as always. Good, sir. Been well.
Good to see you, mate. Yes, very good. Welcome back, mate. Welcome back. I know you had a few issues last week. So, good to see half. Good to see half of you here, mate.
I know. I'm getting closer to a full return, I tell you. And on my other side, it is Ted, mind the gap in his teeth, Mackham. It is good to see you, mate.
Oh, wow. Oh, went straight in for a physical insult. Okay,
cheeky jab.
That is an early snap one, like, dear me.
Oh, you can see I can sit here in the nude and it's fine. It's all good. It's good to see you both, and what a week it's been. We're coming up on another international break. I cannot believe it. We've had so many, but it is the last one as we lead up into Christmas. I tell you what, lads, Christmas. It's just around the corner, boys. Can you believe it?
I've just bought my meat for
Have
Christmas.
You?
Literally just bought me. I've bought me duck. Yes.
Hey,
and I'm making you know I like to do my Christmas cake.
Do.
That's getting made later on today as well.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Time of the year. We're going to get another poem. I want another poem from you.
I'll do a poem. Yeah.
I
mean, Steve's the poet laureate of this. But I'll do a Christmas one though. I'll do a Christmas one for you, definitely.
Well, it's good to see everyone. Thank you for joining us on the North East Footy Show pod. We've got Middlesbrough to talk about, Sunderland to talk about, and Newcastle as well. Middlesbrough will be taking on Luton Town at home in the earlier kickoff. Very, very excited for that one. Sunderland taking on a managerless Coventry. We're going to cover that one and talk about the departure of Mark Robins, which has been a massive dividing opinion, not only in the EFL, but also at Coventry. And then we've got Newcastle United away to Nottingham Forest on Sunday, but it is a return for Anderson back to Newcastle. And we've got to talk all about that and what Eddie Howe has fears of it happening to other clubs in the future with the FFP. All that and a lot more coming up. And don't forget, you can catch each and every one of us on our socials. It is at Invictus, at Ted the Mackham, or at NUFC Matters, YouTube, and X or Twitter for those back in the old school days.
And Twitch now.
And Twitch. He's on Twitch as now. You can't get enough of him. If you want him, he's on Twitch as well. My goodness me, the gamer man. Let's kick things off. It is Middlesbrough with the early kickoff today. We have got Middlesbrough taking on Luton Town at home. And what a return to the championship it's been for Luton Town and Rob Edwards. They have had a shocking run since coming back down from the Premier League. They were honestly the club, lads, in the Premier League last season that were the closest to staying up out of the three that were promoted in the season before. I thought they had a fantastic little run in the Premier League for a team so small. We know what their ground has been like, seeing people hanging their washing as they're putting in goals. It was a brilliant effort for such a small club town. And obviously you witnessed them last season in the Premier League. Well, they're 19th now in the Championship, literally 3 places away, sitting above Wayne Rooney's Plymouth Argyle, who are the third last in the relegation scrap. Rob Edwards has been coming under criticism after criticism for not being able to bounce back in the Championship in what's been called one of the easier Championship tables that they've seen in previous years. I'll come to you, Teddy boy, because Luton Town, mate, they haven't had the greatest of returns. Middlesbrough have them at home after a great midweek battle, but Luton Town, I think, has shocked everyone. I honestly thought, hand on heart, that they were going to blow us away in the Championship this season.
I thought so as well, mate, because, the season that they got promoted, they went up through the playoffs. Obviously, they beat Sunderland in the semi-finals, and they bullied Sunderland, to be honest, in that second leg of the semi, certainly. They're a very, very physical side. I think they tried to impose that a little bit in the Premier League as well, but you get found out quite easy. You need a bit more about your game in the Premier League than that. They've come back down, and I just feel like Luton are trying to play too much football. And by that, I mean, if they actually reverted the type and actually were physical bully boys, I think they'd get a lot more points than what they've currently got right now. Certainly when we played them down at Luton and got a 2-1 win down there, they didn't have the same sort of fight about them. They were very easy to out football, and they just didn't offer much of a challenge, to be honest with you. And it is surprising as well, because I honestly thought they'd be right up there. But then again, I thought the likes of Sheffield Wednesday would have been as well. But they're also another team that's having a horrendous start. Rob Edwards, quite rightly, is under pressure, because when you look at somebody like Mark Robbins, who's been given the 9-10 jack at Coventry, then you talk about Mark Robbins, who's over many seasons now has been so consistent with Coventry, and I think he would have turned it round. I do genuinely think he would have turned it round. He's the sort of guy, before Regis Labrise was given the job, I would have loved for someone to got in for Mark Robbins, because I think he's a terrific Championship manager. However, if Rob Edwards is still in a job and Mark Robbins is gone, then he's got to be starting to look over his shoulder. Getting into that time before Christmas, we've got the January transfer window coming up. It's kind of coming up in the periphery now. Clubs are going to have to make changes if they're going to do it. They want their man in. They want them to assess the squad before they go and spend any sort of money to pull themselves out of trouble in the second half of the season. So I honestly think, I'm not going to give the predictions yet. I know you don't want to do that, but I think Middlesbrough's got a really, really good chance to add more points to the board today, because they just ain't all that right.
Yeah. No, I completely agree, and I think it's been a big shock for me, especially for a town, for Luton Town to come back down, who were honestly out of Burnley and obviously Leeds United. I honestly thought they were going to be the team that would stay up, because they were the closest to it, Steve. You witnessed them last season, Steve, and I think you even might have got done down at Kenilworth Road during that season, but they're struggling back in the Championship life, mate.
Yeah, they are. They found that the going's got tough for them, hasn't it? I mean, I haven't watched Luton's ins and outs, and I don't know, how it affected them, the relegation. But I mean, ultimately for me, it's strange that more and more teams seem to be dropping from the Premier League, going into the Championship and struggling. Look, happened with Sunderland a few years ago, and look how long it took them to get out of the next tier. It's not nice to see, but it's football. It's harsh. It's hard. But there has been a turning point in recent weeks for Luton. They'll have a degree of confidence, and bizarrely, I think it started with Sunderland. You go back to the back end of October. Luton played Sunderland. Sunderland won 2-1, but that game was quite tight, if I remember rightly. I think it was goalless at half time, and I remember thinking, that could be a potential banana skin. But Sunderland came out winners 2-1. But since then, Luton have had a couple of results, haven't they? I know they got beat off Coventry City, who Sunderland faced today, but that was a high scoring game, 3-2. Then they got a 1-1 draw against West Brom, who were certainly playoff contenders this season, which was a positive. They were 1-0 down. They got back to 1-1. And then last week, obviously, the big game, 6-pointer, proverbial 6-pointer against Cardiff, the 1-1-0. So there's a degree there of, there's a degree of success over the last couple of games, and they'll want to continue that today. And that's the thing, that they'll be looking at Middlesbrough saying, Middlesbrough haven't hit form. A team which often underperforms at home. Maybe the pressure of playing at home gets to Middlesbrough, and Luton will be looking at this as a chance to get at least another point on the board. But they won't be going into this with any fear. So I would say that out of all of those teams who are currently at the bottom, your Plymouths, your QPRs, and your Portsmouths, and then your next section, which is Cardiff, Preston, and Luton. I think Luton are looking at that table. They'll take a lot of confidence from it. They'll be looking at this and going, you know what, lads, if we can get a point today, or even 3 points, then we could find ourselves looking towards the playoffs. It's that tight again, and it's almost a mirror image of the Premier League at the minute.
Yeah.
There's a top and there's a bottom. There's no middle. You know what I mean? You win 2 games. You win 2 games. You're out of the relegation fight and you're into the promotion fight. So it's so bizarre. But yeah, I mean, if Middlesbrough can do what Middlesbrough should do, I mean, schizophrenic at the moment, Middlesbrough, no doubt about it. If Middlesbrough can do what Middlesbrough should do today, then Luton, if the results go against them, that they're going to be, they're going to be right back in the relegation mix. So, I think they're out of it by goal difference, aren't they, at the moment? So I think, interesting game. It's a really interesting game. But yeah, I'm surprised to see Luton down there. They were a hard team to play at Luton last year. But this game's a Borough today. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
It is at home, the beautiful Riverside Stadium, best stadium in the world, according to these two as well, who constantly remind me. We'll get to your empty stadium count very soon, mate. Don't you worry about that. We're Middlesbrough, obviously back at the Riverside Stadium. We had a midweek game against QPR down in London. A cheeky 4-1 win, if you don't mind. If you couldn't predict a Middlesbrough game, you're not alone, I tell you. The ups and downs of Middlesbrough's consistency is absolutely incredible. I mean, we get smacked on the weekend, Coventry 3-0, and then we go and turn QPR over 4-1. It's just incredible. Middlesbrough obviously going to have the return of Hayden Hackney today. Hayden Hackney selected for the under-21s next week as well. He will be returning from that red card or the 2 yellows he suffered against Coventry. He'll be back and fit for selection. Apart from that, the only out for Middlesbrough will be Neto Borges, our constant Brazilian left back, who has been unwell, lads. Failing to acclimatise to English weather is our Brazilian left back. He's struggling with the cold. He's a bit unwell, a bit under the weather, has had a dodgy Parma or two or something like that because he's under the weather, lads. He's been playing with a bit of a bout of illness, according to the club, and it looks like he won't make it, which leaves Middlesbrough with young George McCormick, who is a 20-year-old left back. He also captained the under-21s Middlesbrough in an amazing comeback midweek. So will George McCormick get his full debut? It'll be time will tell. He's the only fit left back that Middlesbrough have. We might see the Luke Ayling and Anthony Dykesteel as well on each wing. It's going to be a tough game for Middlesbrough. Obviously, a team that's come down from the Premier League. Everyone at Middlesbrough will remember the Luton Town promotion party that kind of started, when we were there last time, and we saw Bob Mortimer in the crowd going nuts. We saw Carlton Morris get tripped, and I know the camera's not on, but I'm doing air quotes because he was not well touched. He just flew himself around in the box and got a penalty, so it's ridiculous. So we've got a good little memory. Does Middlesbrough against Luton Town, and I think it's going to be a good old game. I'm going for a big Middlesbrough win today, lads. I think we're going to, honestly, it's going to be the momentum that's going to be killed by the international break once again. It seems to have been Middlesbrough's curse at the moment. If it's not a good break, it's a horrible timing. So we've got the international break after this one, and I think Middlesbrough are going to make it 2 wins going into that break. So it's going to be a tough old game though, and we'll get some predictions later in the stream. But I hope everyone is doing very well. It is a bit chilly, but it's blooming hot in Australia, lads. 32 degrees here today, lads. 32 degrees. I tell you, we're starting to cruise into summer here. I've got a nice tan, not that you can tell. I was referred to as Brad Pitt earlier today. Again, sorry, the camera's not on.
Raymond's son, was it?
You can't deny because the camera's not on, so no one can tell me different.
You must say that you're not Brad Pitt.
Oh, speaking of Brad Pitt, let's get on to Sunderland, who have got a big game today against Coventry.
That's one for the older crowd. Sorry.
This is an interesting game for me, Ted, and it's actually created a lot of the topics for today because of the match against being Coventry. There's also some talk in there of Joe Bellingham as well, obviously being selected for the under-21. So I want to come to you about that and whether they made a mistake thinking that Jude was available and they accidentally put Joe down or something like that. We're also going to talk about Coventry because Coventry have just lost their manager that they've had since 2012, lads. Mark Robbins taking over Coventry in 2012 was sacked midweek. Can you believe it? After a 12-year stint at the club. I mean, when he first was appointed, he got a 3-year deal. His first game was a defeat at Carlisle United. He then took them up the league from relegation battlers to playoff contenders in the short time. And then obviously we all saw last year how close they were to that cup final. I mean, literally a dodgy VAR call and they could have been on the other side of Man City in the FA Cup. So, I mean, what Mark Robbins had done at Coventry was nothing short of miraculous to take them from literally the bottom to the top. And, a 12-year stint, lads. But he's gone, and Sunderland will be placing a managerless Coventry today. Ted, obviously, we're going to talk about Sunderland very soon, but just your quick thoughts on Coventry, mate. I know that you love them. They're probably your second team. I know you've got a secret admiration for them. I know that Mark Robbins and you have beers every now and then. I want to hear, mate, from you. One, what was your initial reaction to Mark Robbins getting the sack down at Coventry? And two, do you think it was fair or not fair?
Coventry is the worst city I have ever visited. I just want to make that clear. If anyone's not been to Coventry, don't. There's a reason. There's an actual expression of saying he's been sent to Coventry. That it is absolutely just the pits. It is the armpit of the world. It really is. It looks like it's been made with beige Lego. It's just absolutely horrific. But anyway, enough about that fair city. Actually, one of my favourite bands does come from Coventry, so it kind of balances out a little bit. Big up the enemy. So yeah, I was a surprise, to be honest. I thought he would have been given more time. I was really surprised there when what you just said, that it was don't even dare. Don't even dare, Riff. How dare you? I'll get on to that. You're just setting me up for a rant, aren't you? You just love doing it. I'm supposed to be the working ticket, but he was winding me up. So I was surprised. I was very surprised when you said there, right? He's been there since 2012. That's a hell of a stint, that. And we talked last week. Thanks for joining us, Rai. We talked last week about we're seeing the end of the days where managers actually did more than 5 or 6 years at a football club. I don't think we're going to see that anymore, and it's a shame. And it's split the Coventry fans. There's a lot of them really, really unhappy that Mark Robbins has been given the sack. He has achieved a lot. He's also achieved consistency with them until this season. They're a decent cup side. They're a mid to high end championship side as well. He brought through some fantastic players, Gyökeres, who's obviously gone on to Sporting Lisbon, and a number of others as well. So it is a bit of a surprise. However, I dread this. I dread this game more than I dread the Middlesbrough game. And I'll tell you for why. It's because of that hatred between the two clubs that Steve rightly pointed out. I'm just seeing Jules there. Now, I'm from the middle. Thank you, Jules. Thank you. I'm sure Steve's got a treat for your cat later on. So I dread this one because we've got such horrendous form against Coventry. We really have. The last 20 meetings we've had with them, we've only won 4. Coventry have won 8, and we've drawn the other 8. It's not a game that goes well for Sunderland traditionally. Now, I was kind of looking at it going, dare I dream that Coventry, obviously languishing down there, they got lucky. They win against Middlesbrough. When you've got a player sent off in the first half, as we've seen when Dan Neil was sent off that time, it's hard to recover from, that's a freak result for me, the one they got against Middlesbrough. The rest of the time, you're thinking, oh, great. Hey, we're going to absolutely do this. However, they then go and sack the manager, and we always know there's some sort of backlash from that, whether it's doing it for him or whether they're sick of him and they're just happy that he's gone. There's always a bit of a resurgent performance straight after a manager has gone. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. The whole Job thing that you mentioned, fantastic for him. Absolutely fantastic and so well deserved. I'm not mad at him about the red card. He was very, very excitable, shall we say. It was a little bit of no complaints about it being a red card. Nobody has complained about it. He just went, he did get the ball. He skimmed the ball and got the man. He looked absolutely horrified after the challenge happened as well, which you kind of think, right, okay, he's been honest about it. He didn't actually leave the field until the player was actually up and okay, which I thought is testament to the character of the lad as well. For 18-year-old to have that kind of maturity and want to make sure his fellow professionals all right. I was well impressed with that. All right, we only got a 0-0 draw out of that one. But we were up against it, certainly for the back half of that game. It's been a bit of a weird one because we've had 2 0-0 draws in the last 2 games, which we didn't expect. We are very, very resolute at the back. I think the keeper Simon Moore is a more than capable stand-in for Anthony Patterson, who misses out again today. And we just look solid. We just need to rediscover a bit of that spark up front. I think we need the rub of the green. We've had games where it's been very stop-start with the referee. We could really do with one that lets the game flow a little bit more. So we'll see about that today, I guess. I do fancy us. I know it's going to be squeaky. It's not going to be as fun to watch as what I thought it would be. Nevertheless, I think with what we've got in our arsenal, I think we've got good enough to get a 2-0 result against Cov today.
It's going to be interesting, obviously, because of the sacking and the timing of Mark Robins. Obviously, Coventry fans are going to be irate. I think the majority would say, according to social media, this is, again, I haven't looked too heavily into it, but the majority of Coventry fans that I'm seeing on social media are disgusted with the sacking of Mark Robins. I think the timing of it, why now? Why not? A few games ago, why has it come now? But the timing of it against, to come up against Sunderland, who are in first spot, you're asking for a big change of attitude. There is rumours, as we've seen as well. Tufnell, thank you again in the chat, saying that there were players heavily involved in wanting Mark Robins gone. I mean, was that true? Was that not? You'll probably never find out. But the timing of it to then come against Sunderland, top of the table, it's either going to go one of two ways, isn't it? You're going to have a resolute performance under the new caretaker manager, or you're going to have a Michael Beale sort of performance, and it's going to be all she wrote. So, Steve, obviously Sunderland versus Coventry. Michael Beale, mate, he's putting his hand up. Don't you worry about that. Otherwise, he's going to Jamaica with Steve McLaren. Stevie boy, Coventry versus Sunderland today. It's a big one in the EFL because all eyes in the EFL this week have been on Coventry for the sacking of Mark Robins. The timing of it all. And obviously, we get to take a closer eye on it due to Sunderland taking on Coventry. But never good to see a manager that's been at the club for that long, mate, get the sack.
No, definitely not. I mean, Mark Robins is probably infamous, isn't he, with Manchester United? He was the man who kept Alex Ferguson in the job by scoring that infamous goal. And, he's gone into management. And I've got to be honest, when I first saw him come in as a manager, I didn't think he'd succeed. But he's done really well. And it really surprised me to hear he'd been at Coventry for so long. To see him get the sack, well, again, they're in and around the relegation mix, one result and they're into the bottom 3. So, if results go against them. But there's a team that can play and win. We've seen it against Middlesbrough. The 3-0 win for Coventry, wasn't it? Against Borough. And we know that Borough's in and out with their form. And prior to that, a 3-2 win over relegation rivals Luton Town, and a 1-1 draw against QPR. I couldn't believe it to hear that he'd actually gone when I looked at the last 3 results, and I'm thinking, well, surely that should have happened before. So you've took away the momentum, you've took away the run. So you wonder whether something's gone on behind the scenes. Is there a dispute between him and the owner? Is there a consensus of opinion that the 3 results they've just had, is down to luck, and rather than management getting you out of a bad run? It's a strange decision, that it really is, and that's the kind of decision that dictates who goes down and who stays up. Coventry could free fall after this, depending on who goes in. There is the flip side that, when those bad results were happening towards the start of the season, that there was negotiations going on with somebody about coming in and replacing Robins, and it had gone too far. Maybe he said, a gentleman's agreement had already taken place and that person was going to come in, and it's just been unfortunate for Robins that it's fell off the back of 3 decent results for Coventry where they look as if they're getting the form together. So, yeah, I really did find it strange, and because, Robins has been there so long, I guess, it's very rare the managers stay around at any level of football for that length of time. So I'm sure he'll put his feet up. He'll have a little break, but I'm sure he'll be straight back into it, because I still think Mark Robins has probably got a lot to offer. Another championship team perhaps, and as we all
Plymouth
know,
by Christmas.
Not wrong.
As we all know, football's fickle, and managers will be losing their jobs, before the end of the season. And I don't expect Mark Robins to be out of a job too long, because he's clearly got what it takes to be a really good manager at that level. So yeah, strange one, very strange. But yeah, we'll wait and see we'll wait and see what happens with their appointment and how things go. But yeah, strange one, and amazing to see another what you would classify as a household name team, a big team, former FA Cup winners, of course.
Yep.
Down in the mix with relegation teams. There's lots of teams down there who you would consider a big teams. Portsmouth, of course, been up and down. QPR, another team I've seen in the Premiership. Cardiff, another team I've seen in the Premier League. And obviously we've already mentioned Luton and Hull City and Coventry, all in the mix at the moment.
Yeah, no, it's definitely it's one of the tightest championships again. There's no team, that isn't without, grasp this early on. Sunderland obviously leading it well, but it doesn't take too many wins or losses to bring them back into keel. So it's a very, very tight championship race, and we're not seeing the likes of Burnley, Leeds United, these teams that have come down from the Premier League blowing us away like we did the year before, Teddy boy. So I think it's going to be a tough old one. Let's get into Newcastle as well. Then we're going to talk about previous results. A lot more to come here on the Northeast Footy Show podcast. Welcome and thank you for all joining us. We're going to take a quick halftime break here though, and it's everyone's favorite. It's time for Troll of the Week.
Thanks to everybody who sent these in. Following on from Newcastle unveiling the stack at St James's Park, it didn't take Sunderland long to follow in our wake. So here we have from Alan Miller.
I love that.
The Sunderland fan zone.
I haven't got a problem with that. That's heaven to me.
It's a good start with the panda, two pandas either side as well. Panda Pop obviously available as well as cheesy chips. So fantastic. This one from Gary: if Sunday League had VAR. Yes, Gary. And I love this from Gary as well. This guy is sitting in Rosehead in his own bedroom.
Is that? Jeez, Louise, mate.
Newcastle Arsenal, I think. I mean, you can get some new socks as well.
All right.
The winner this week, though, was this. Jimmy Moore, thank you for this, mate. Bruno Fernandes covered the most distance in the Premier League in 2023. Unfortunately, because the way we're pictures set up here, you can't see the bottom. Somebody at the bottom had put, yes, most of that was chasing referees. Great stuff. If you've got any trolling kind of tweets or stuff like that, please send them in to us, me, Ted, or I, and we will feature them each week on Troll of the Week.
All right. It is a lot more to come and a lot more to talk about on the Northeast Footy Show podcast. I've got Ted the Mackham and Steve Rave. We've spoken a little bit about Middlesbrough v Luton Town later today in the earlier kickoff. We then got Sunderland v Coventry, the managerless Coventry. We've covered that. It's now time to talk Newcastle. Firstly, Steve, hello. Knocking off Mikel Arteta last week, mate. 1-0. What a performance that was. I mean, no one predicted it. Obviously, it was at St. James Park, but we were expecting probably a tighter affair, I would have thought. Alexander Isak showing, again, he's constantly rumoured with going to Arsenal. And Arsenal, it's mainly from the Arsenal end, isn't it, that they want him, showing exactly what he would bring. But I don't think he's going to go. But it was a good win over Arsenal, scoring in the 12th minute, mate, and then holding them out for the rest of the game. What a performance against, probably the favourite for the league.
Two completely different performances, wasn't it? Chelsea in midweek, and then then the Arsenal game. The Chelsea game, Newcastle were dominant and got a great result and got us into the quarterfinals with a draw against Brentford, which was superb. But the Arsenal game, I've mentioned it on NUFC Matters this week. Where I got into the ground and I saw the team line up, and I was very disappointed.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that, certainly that Tonali had been dropped after what was certainly one of his best performances in a black and white shirt midweek. Obviously scratching my head a little bit at Emil Kraft as well, who'd come in and done a wonderful job at right back. And Lloyd Kelly, who at centre half had certainly laid the gauntlet down to Dan Burn and Fabian Shaw to say, look, lads, I'm here if your form drops. But what do I know? Eddie Howe came in and, he moved the guys into a different formation, and, the lads came back and put on a great performance. Certainly one of Bruno's best performances of the season. Lewis Hall, who's had a wonderful month in October, continuing the form in November and getting an England call-up, which was well-deserved. But he has established himself as our out-and-out left-back and getting better game by game, which is great to see. Sean Longstaff, often a target of the Boo Boys, certainly on Twitter, has really proven once again that, we need him in the team. He does the dirty work. He might not be the best technical player that we've got, but you know what? We don't lose games with him in the team. Even when he's come off and Newcastle have been losing, we've gone on to win the game. And there's little funny quirks like that in football, and we just can't do without Sean Longstaff. So we need to play him. Anthony Gordon on the right, Joe Linton on the left, gave Willock the opportunity to reunite with Joe on the left, and it worked. It worked a treat. That was what got us the success last season and the season before. Anthony Gordon on the right is something which I think Anthony Gordon will go for if it means the team's winning. He's that kind of person. He's that kind of player. Don't think it'll affect his England chances. He's been called up again by England, and I think England will use him how they see fit. Club and country's two completely different things. So I am really pleased. We got out of that blip, and it was a blip where we were creating chances, over 20 chances a game, but just not scoring goals. And you've already touched on him. Alexander Isak is firing on all cylinders again. He's fully fit. He's got that poacher's instinct back, and he knows where the back of the net is. And that's dangerous for other teams because, once he gets his mojo, and Newcastle are a hard team to beat. So, we aren't conceding goals this season. We aren't. With the exception of Fulham away, we haven't had many bad defensive performances. It's just been the goal scoring that's been an issue. So hopefully that's going to change. And a trip to Nottingham Forest this weekend is for me more pressure on Forest than it is on Newcastle. Newcastle will want to continue the run, but Forest are flying high. I don't think this is a Leicester moment. I've got no feelings that Leicester will go on to win the Premier League. I think the bubble will burst. I've just got to hope that we're going to be the ones to burst it at the weekend.
Yeah, no, it's going to be an interesting game. Obviously, not only because Nottingham Forest are high and flying and what Nuno is doing there. Obviously, the Chris Wood effect as well. We saw that in full effect last season, scoring the hat-trick against Newcastle. But it's now also taken with the effect of Elliot Anderson. Obviously, Elliot Anderson now at Nottingham Forest as well. Eddie Howe used his press conference, Steve, to address that. And he's saying it will happen again, which I thought was quite interesting. He was quick to say that no one internally wanted to make that sale, but we had to. He said, I think it's one of those ones where it's very unusual because I think it will be happening again, not just here, but at other football clubs when you have to sell footballers you love for financial reasons. So good, kind words there going out to Elliot Anderson, who is now at Nottingham Forest. I mean, Steve, we were talking, I think, early on when this happened. Not only was it Anderson, it was Minte as well. I mean, it was interesting at the time, to say the least, to see Newcastle have to sell two arguably players they didn't want to let go, and now Anderson firing at Nottingham Forest, in what shows is an early successful season.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's 3 ex-Newcastle players at Forest. We've got Chris Wood, Elliot Anderson, and Matt Sells, of course, the goalkeeper. All three have been involved in the last 3 league games, and they've won them all. For us, it's the PSR scenario again. Newcastle have to sell if they want to, to spend money, and that's just because of the mismanagement of Mike Ashley over 14 years. We know that. So Elliot Anderson was somebody that Newcastle wanted to keep a hold of. Look at Eddie Howe's track record, and a happy anniversary to Eddie. It's his third year in charge officially yesterday.
Hey.
Wow.
And for us, he has got a hold of players, brought them in, and look at how they've gone on, and look at how they've developed. And Elliot Anderson would have been the same. Tino Livramento came to Newcastle, has won an England cap, won a selection in the England squad. Lewis Hall has come to Newcastle and done the same. And he's very good at developing young players. And I think he would have done the same with Elliot Anderson. It was nice words, but it was through gritted teeth, because he shouldn't have to sell your best players, or players who could potentially go on and be better. And that was through gritted teeth from Eddie yesterday. But yeah, he's going to wish him well. He hasn't been he's been in and out, hasn't he, Elliot Anderson? The bit of squad rotation, he's been a victim of that. But when he's come on, he's done well. He's assisted. He looks a Premier League player, and it's great. It's great to see. As for Chris Wood, the time that he spent in Newcastle was brief, but it was an important spell, because he did get some crucial goals for us, which helped us in that battle to stay up. Again, though, he was sold because of PSR, and he doesn't fit into the formation that Newcastle were playing at the time, one up front, and he wanted regular football. There was Chris Wood, Alexander Isak, and Callum Wilson, and he was third in the pecking order. And like Eddie said yesterday at the press conference, we had to let him go. There was no hard feelings, and off he went. So it's great to see him doing well. When I do the podcast with Supermac and Gibbo on the channel, they've often criticised Wood. They criticised him when he was a Newcastle player. I've always said he's a good striker, played in the right formation, and I've been proved right. 8 goals in the Premier League so far this season, 3 goals in his last 3 games. But the key tomorrow, really, for Newcastle is stop the crosses. Dan Burn can mark Chris Wood all day, but we need to cut out the supply line. And whether it's Gibbs White or Elanga, and Newcastle have got to make sure that they're on the ball midfield wise, and cutting those crosses out. So that's where we're at, really. It's as simple as that. I'm not going down there tomorrow concerned about it. I genuinely think that Newcastle will get a we'll get a result, but I think it won't come on a plate. You've got to work for it tomorrow, and we need the same kind of work ethos that we had last weekend against Arsenal. We had less possession than Arsenal, but we grafted, and we need that tomorrow. And it'll be interesting to see what he does with the team tomorrow. Will he bring Tonali back in and rest somebody? It's really interesting. Howe has got headaches now that he didn't have last season. The headaches he had last season were, who on earth am I going to play? Because I haven't got any players, because they're all injured. This season, with the exception of Trippier, Lascelles, Botman, and Target, he's now got a full squad to pick from. And there'll be suspensions imminently. Byrne is still on 4 yellow cards. Fabian Schär is on 4 yellow cards as well, and Joe Linton is on 4 yellow cards. So law of averages says 1, maybe 2 of them could get booked tomorrow, and he's got decisions to make then. Kelly would have to come in for Byrne. Who would come in for Joe Linton? That would be a big blow. Kelly could come in for Fabian Schär as well. So there will be things made slightly easier for Eddie Howe, but it's a great problem to have. But Newcastle need to improve their away form starting tomorrow if they've got any chance of finishing in a competitive European competition like the Champions League.
It's going to be a tough test, Teddy boy, for Newcastle. Obviously, a tricky trip because Nottingham Forest have been performing so well. Eddie was quick to say, congratulations to Nuno. What a fantastic job. And he deserves the credit for the way he's done. And it's going to be a real, very tough to play against. I mean, Newcastle, it's a tricky trip because, they're signing off. We're going into the international break. They're looking for a 3rd consecutive win, obviously beating Chelsea and Arsenal, which has kind of steadied the ship for Eddie after going 5 league matches without a win. A big test for Eddie and the Newcastle lads tomorrow.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think anybody would have thought going into this game you'd be playing against a top three side in the Premier League, which
No.
Nottingham Forest are there. You're over a quarter of the way into the season. It's not a fluke that they're there. They're playing some good football. They've got a very, very good coach who I honestly didn't think got the rub of the green at Spurs, but then again, who does? Spurs are Spurs. That's why they are what they are. But Forest going really, really well. They are a big club. There's no two ways about it. Forest have won league titles. They've won European Cups. They are a big club historically, and they're just starting to get things together again a little bit now. Like Steve, I like Chris Wood. Chris Wood's a proper centre forward. Proper English style centre forward. Obviously, he's not English, but honestly, he's a bit of a unit. He can hold the ball up. He can bring others into play. He has got a striker's instinct as well. I just like the way he plays. He can bring others into play as well. Obviously, they've got some fantastic wingers at Nottingham Forest as well, who they can feed off what he knocks down for them and bring them in and sort of little balls around the corner and that kind of thing. They're a good side to watch. They're actually very, very enjoyable to watch. And yeah, this is possibly. You expect a big test against Arsenal. You expect a big test against Chelsea. You don't expect as big a test as what you're going to get with Nottingham Forest. Now, I think Eddie Howe will have them prepped for this, but it's not the Nottingham Forest that they played last season, albeit Forest played well against Newcastle last season. They are improving all the time. This could be a little bit of a banana skin. I don't know how Steve feels about it. I'm probably speaking for him a little bit here. I just feel if Newcastle come away with this, with a draw, I think they'll be reasonably happy with that. And that's mad, considering that they've put Chelsea and Arsenal to the sword. I think going away to a tricky fixture like this, a team who's really, really in form and really confident and popping the ball about nicely, it's like, you'd probably rather play Man City than you would Nottingham Forest at this moment in time, to be perfectly honest with you. So yeah, it's a tough one. Do you want my prediction now?
Yeah, go on.
Right, okay. I haven't had a Desmond for a while, so I'm going to stick with it out. I'm going for an entertaining one. I think it will be an entertaining game. You mentioned it before, Steve. I like Anthony Gordon playing on the right and cutting in. There's just something about that where I feel like he can do a lot of damage there. And I think you might get joy out of that as well. So, yeah, an entertaining 2-2 draw I'm going for today, tomorrow.
I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I think there's going to be a goal from Isak and a goal from Wood, and that's going to be about it. It's going to be battle of the defenses after that. I'm very, very interested to see the minds of Eddie versus Nuno. That's what I love to see in the Premier League. When you have great opposition managers going at it and seeing their tactics. That's what I just love to see. So, yeah, I'm going to go for a 1-1. Stevie, are you got a prediction for us, mate, for the game?
Yeah, 2-1, mate. 2-1. Newcastle win. Like same as Tom. I do think Chris Wood will score. I think he's in such a rich vein of form. I think the bit will be between his teeth to get a goal. But I think we'll have too much for them. I think I'm going to back Alexander Isak to get another goal tomorrow.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think Newcastle will come away with 3 points, which will be a well-deserved 3 points if they do. And I genuinely feel that we'll go into the international break on the on a real high. And we're coming into that busy festive break then, which includes the quarter final, and that's gonna dictate our season. We'll come to it obviously in the future shows, but that home game against Brentford is pivotal for our season, because if Newcastle can get into the semi-finals going into next year, and then Botman and Lascelles and Co are back, it's gonna give Newcastle a real boost. So yeah, it's exciting times. Bearing in mind 2 weeks ago it felt like doom and gloom. I remember getting a text off Ted saying, "God, you must be really down. And you're sitting in 12th place. Where's it all gone wrong?" It just shows you those 2 results have changed things. So let's see what happens. But yeah, 2-1 to Newcastle. I'm going for.
Excellent. Well, we're going to finish off with a wrap up of Middlesbrough, Sunderland and Newcastle as we bring home the Northeast Footy Show podcast for another week. We do have an international break coming up. We might touch on the selections for England, as well as a cheeky selection for both Middlesbrough and Sunderland in the under-21s as well. And we'll get the lads' quick thoughts on that. But a quick one on Middlesbrough. We didn't cover, obviously, the midweek performances. Middlesbrough coming away with a solid 4-1 win in London against QPR. What a performance this was, lads. It was an incredible game that saw Seny Dieng, our goalkeeper, return to his previous club. He had an absolute Superman performance. I've never seen it. And we had cries of getting Seny Dieng out of our club merely 1 week ago when we went down 3-0 to Coventry. I tell you what, consistency is not our middle name at the moment. When we lose to Coventry the way we did, to then put a performance like we did midweek against QPR in London as well. It was incredible. Sold out away end as well. The Borough fans travelling in full support. It's going into the international break with a big win for Borough today. We have got about an hour and a half, just over an hour and a half till our kickoff with the early game, Middlesbrough versus Luton Town today. And what a game it could be. What an ending to another break before an international break comes along for Middlesbrough today. 4-1 as well. Riley McGree playing absolute off his socks. And what a signing Tommy Conway, Borough fans, has been proving to be. Tommy Conway is absolutely incredible. He's got the pace. He's got such such a relaxed sort of nature for a young 22-year-old striker, Scottish striker as well. Selected for Scotland next week, but it's arguably the man everyone's talking about is the Liverpool loanee Ben Doak, 18 years old. He has setting up everything Middlesbrough do goes through Ben Doak. If it doesn't go through Ben Doak, then it doesn't happen. He is like the train ticket master. If you have to have a ticket to go down the Ben Doak train at the moment down at Borough, everything he creates and touches down the right-hand wing, it comes, turns into goal for the Borough. We saw Riley McGree's first goal. We even saw Tommy Conway's build-up, starting with Ben Doak. So young 18-year-old. And Middlesbrough have always been, over the previous seasons with the likes of Cameron Archer, with the likes of Aaron Ramsey, Borough fans, Ryan Giles will know all too well that falling in love with a lone player is not something we need to do. But at the moment this season, Borough fans, we are falling in love with Ben Doak. And he's only 18 years old. And what a bright talent Scotland have got there, I tell you. If they use him correctly, he's got the world at his feet, does Ben Doak. And I tell you what, Arnie Slot talking midweek about Ben Doak as well and noticing his performances at Middlesbrough, saying, don't worry, we're not going to let him go, Liverpool fans. So Middlesbrough...
She's Scottish, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, he's not going to play an awful lot of tournament football, and so that's good as well, yeah.
Cheeky jab. Speaking of internationals next week, Middlesbrough are going to have Hayden Hackney, who's been selected. Obviously, him coming back from that red card for us today, Borough fans. Hayden Hackney was selected, but also, can you believe this? Everybody sit down. Both Bellingham brothers representing England. Can you believe it? I don't know if they've made a mistake, but Job has been selected for the under-21s next week. But honestly, Ted, all seriousness aside, mate, he's had a stellar season and it's a reward for good work. And it's, look, he's always said, I'm not a Bellingham, I'm Job. And the reason he has Job on the back of his shirt, because he wants to get away from that brother's shadow. Well, he's making a name for himself now, mate. He's had an excellent start, albeit that red card, which you said earlier you didn't blame him for. But what a sign of progression it's been under Reggie coming for Bellingham this season and getting, selected for the under-21s.
Up until that red card, against QPR, he was a 10 out of 10 for that match because everything he did was just like stellar level stuff. And I watched the games with Mrs. Ted and the cats. The cats show slightly more interest in it than what Mrs. Ted does. But I was even saying we are going to sell him for a lot of money. And there were scouts there at the game against Preston. It must have been a long trip, that one, because he wasn't even playing. But there was Dortmund scouts there for that game.
Wow.
Now I'm assuming that they're probably going expecting to see Job. They ended up seeing Chris Regan and the likes of them, but hopefully they're not going to put in a bid for both of them because we'll be well and truly screwed then. But Job has been absolutely magnificent this season. There's no other word for it. I was critical of the way the club handled him last season. I thought he played too much football. Yep. And I think a lot of the Sunderland fans would agree with that as well. He's just matured again. He's took his game to the next level. The way he opens up space for himself it's way beyond what an 18-year-old kid should be doing. It's absolutely uncanny what he does. He's going to play for a massive, massive club, probably a few of them. We've just got to enjoy seeing the likes of these players because with the greatest intent in the world, even if we got promoted, a Liverpool or somebody like that is going to come in for him, and probably somebody abroad. If I'm being perfectly honest with you, I noticed that that he was linked with a move to West Ham in one of those rubbish pages on Facebook, which is an absolute laugh. To be honest, he is destined for much bigger things than West Ham United. Mark my words, he's been terrific, and the England under-21s call-up is the least he's deserved for this. I'll be interested to see how he gets on. If he's anything like his brother, I don't think it'll be too long before, if he does make the move into the Premier League, either with us or with somebody else. I think a full international call-up isn't that far away for Joe Bellingham. That's how much I think he's improved this season.
Wow, it's going to be incredible if we potentially see two Bellingham boys in the middle of the park.
I remember the last time we had brothers, probably the Nevilles, probably in the Neville's England squad. Obviously, well, I don't think the Wright Phillips brothers ever made the England squad together. But other than the Nevilles, Steve, I can't think of any other brothers that have made England.
Jack and Bobby Charlton.
Yeah,
of course,
Jack and Bobby.
We're back in time. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Fair point.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So no, it's going to be interesting to watch him and to see his development. I mean, a couple of stalemates in previous games, Teddy Boy. No goals coming. We've seen a move which I thought was interesting as well, of Isidore moving to the wing and taking Romain Mundle's spot there. Maybe tired legs. You're obviously Regis is looking to move things around, trying to find that goal. Are you confident that the goals will come back again against Coventry?
Oh yeah. Look, it's quite a congested few games, really. And looking at it on the face of things, we've had 4 away games in quite quick succession. Yeah, one home game in the middle of that. But the 4 away games that we've played, we've won 2 of them, we've drawn 2 of them, we've conceded 1 goal. I'm pretty happy with that, to be honest. We are very, very solid. Like I said before, Simon Moore, the keeper, who's come in for Anthony Patterson, we were all a little bit nervous going, that was the number one. You build teams around people like Anthony Patterson. But yeah, we've been so solid at the back, which is great to see. The goals will come. Regis changed things around a little bit for the game against Preston. Obviously, like you mentioned, Isidore going out to the left wing. We had Aaron Connolly up front, and on the right we had Tommy Watson, which was a little unfair on Tommy Watson playing him outright. He doesn't normally play there. He plays on the left and cuts in on his right, a bit like Romain Mundle does. So it was a bit of a tough, senior starting debut anyway. I think he needs a little bit more time. A couple of substitute appearances there. I think we have the ability to change things around a bit. I wouldn't be massively surprised to see Alexic get his first start today in midfield. Obviously, with Job missing, Alexic is rated very, very highly, not only by the scouts who went all out to go and get the lad in the summer, but the word around the training ground is this kid is something special in midfield. So they're trying to ease him in gently. I thought Alan Brown absolutely stunk the place out in midweek. He's a player I really like. Honestly, he was trying to do Preston a favour there. I'm convinced of that. Because his dead balls were absolutely horrendous. That's one of the nicknames he got, to be honest. But he was awful. He was absolutely awful against Preston. Somebody who's normally very, very consistent. Now, I am going to poke a bit of fun at him for that one. But he didn't have a good game at all. But I just felt like we missed them a little bit. We've got Riggy back. We've got Alan Brown, who will have a better game today. I would like to see somebody like Alexic. Dan Neil, I don't know. Something's not quite ticking, not quite clicking into place properly for him this season. He's got the ability to have an outstanding game against Oxford United. And then I just feel he's getting caught in possession a little bit too easy. It just seems to be a little bit slow. He needs to have a look at what Job is doing to create space and time for himself, because he's an absolute master of it at the age of 18. He just needs to have a little bit of a look at that, get his head up a bit more, and Dan Neil will be all right as well. But the goals will flow. Isidore's got goals in him. To be honest, I fully expect, I think Patrick Roberts might just start finding the back of the net shortly as well. The great thing for us is we don't rely on one striker. we get goals from all over the place, and the goals will come back again, mate. I'm not worried about that.
Oh, I'm going to go for a cheeky.
Elios agrees, by the way.
Yes, Elliot cheering in the background there. I'm actually going to go for a 2-0 victory to Sunderland today. I think the midweek crisis that Coventry have caused themselves in sacking of Mark Robbins is just going to look, if it's behind the players, if the players are saying that it's, that they want to Mark Robbins out, then it's their time to turn up. And I think, it's going to be an interesting game, that's for sure, to see. But obviously, I'm going to go still for a Sunderland 2-0 victory. Teddy boy, what was your prediction for today, mate?
Also 2-0.
2-0. Stevie boy.
On the score sheet.
Clean sweep, 2-0.
2-0 across the board.
Look, your money on Coventry then. Thanks, lads, for ruining my weekend.
I'm also going for a 3-0 to the Borough today. I think we have found our goal scoring boots, lads. I think we have just managed to find an absolute outstanding talent in Tommy Conway, obviously signing permanently. Ben Doak as well down the right is just unstoppable at the moment. And I think Luton Town are just going to be all at sea once Middlesbrough start flowing. And I'm going to go for a 3-0 victory today to the Borough. Teddy boy, what is your prediction at Middlesbrough versus Luton in honestly in about an hour and a half time?
I think you're gonna squeak this one today. I'm gonna go 2-1 to Middlesbrough.
And Stevie boy, what do you reckon, mate? Borough to get the win today?
2-1 to Luton.
Ooh. All right. Well, we'll be decorating Steve's bar this week in Borough's colours, I tell you, once we go around to his place. It's going to be interesting. Before we wrap things up here on the Northeast Footy Show pod, Steve, I wanted to come to you quickly, mate. The England squad was announced midweek. Lee Carsley obviously still in charge because Thomas Tuchel will not be taking over till the start of next year. The big surprise for me, again, mate, and we constantly talk about it, is Nick Pope. Obviously, Nick Pope not getting selected, Aaron Ramsdale getting selected, mate. It's I just don't get what Nick Pope's got to do. I think he's had a good little run, and I don't see Southampton doing anything too flash down there. Obviously, with the likes of Anthony Gordon still selected, and Lewis Hall selected as well. But I mean, Nick Pope, is he unfairly treated again in this selection, or is it something that you saw coming?
Yeah, it's so difficult because Jordan Pickford's still the number one, isn't he? And I don't see any of these other players, getting the opportunity to take over until Pickford's either completely out of form or moved out. The problem with Pickford is because he's at such a poor team, he gets plenty of practice. None of these other goalkeepers get an opportunity to have as much going. I mean, Nick Pope didn't have a save to make against Arsenal. How can anybody judge a goalkeeper when they're not making any saves? So that's often my feeling about goalkeepers. But it'll all change when Tuchel comes in. I'm sure he will want to come in and pick his own goalkeeper, have his own ideas. But I don't think Nick Pope will be losing any sleep over it. He's focused on Newcastle. He's going to want to, like everybody wants to get the proverbial monkey off the back and win a trophy for the club. I don't think there'll be any issues, mate, for Nick. And I think when Tuchel comes in, that's the most important time for a selection. So avoiding these meaningless games has probably benefited Newcastle. I'm quite happy.
It is interesting to see, obviously, the boys that were selected, one in there, Jack Grealish, Pep coming in and saying, absolutely criticising the choice and selection of England, picking Jack after such little game time. Obviously, Man City hurting with injuries, but it was funny to see him come in and criticise. But that is all we've got time for on the Northeast Footy Show podcast. We are done for another week. We've got an international break ahead of us, but before that, we have got Middlesbrough taking on Luton Town at home in the early kickoff. You will then see Sunderland lose to Coventry City in a Mark Robbins rout. I'm just kidding. I think we all predicted Sunderland to win that one. And then we have got a big game tomorrow to see Newcastle taking on Nottingham Forest in what is a Chris Wood, Elliot Anderson and Matt Sells reunion against Eddie Howe and his men. It's been an excellent show, lads. Ted, as always, thank you for joining us, mate.
Thank you. And of course, the guest star, the Ginger Monkey. Yeah.
Yes.
And Steve, thank you as always, mate. Good luck tomorrow, obviously, on your trip. And to all of you, thank you for tuning in. As always, make sure to hit the like and consider subscribing to all three of us. You can see our socials down below. And we have loved being here with you today. Take care, be kind, and be safe. See you next time.
Three's a Crowd podcast will return. That's not a threat. It's a promise.